So, hi everyone, my name is Amit, and let's start with Windows PowerShell. I also work in Wipro Technologies, and I work primarily on MECM and Windows PowerShell. So, let us go to the reading view. So, these are the training topics which I have given to everyone in the starting. That is because I knew that the audience of this particular content will be primarily working into SCCM. So I've just centered it around PowerShell. That is, what is PowerShell and how do you set up the environment, what will be the syntax, any administration commandlets, or basically most of the manipulations which you will be using in PowerShell. That is something which we have covered here. And how do you do error handling? How do you use try catch finally? If you do need to do any remote administration, how will you go about and achieve that? And in the last three topics, that is second, let me just quickly change. Okay, so in the last three topics, how do you go about MECM and how PowerShell can integrate with MECM to perform certain tasks like automations of creating collections, or cleaning up collections, or creating applications, or creating deployments, maintenance windows, or in general any of the automation tasks which can be done on Windows servers with or without MECM. But the last two topics, it is primarily based on MECM, so that will require you to have certain level of knowledge on MECM as well. The third last topic, which is our PSADT for MECM, that is primarily used for application deployment in MECM and how you can achieve certain tasks using PSADT, which is nothing but just the extension of PowerShell, that is PowerShell App Deploy Toolkit, based on PowerShell, but does a little bit more than what the current Windows PowerShell does. Okay, so let's start with the first one, which is our overview and background. So basically, PowerShell is a cross-platform task automation solution made up of a command line shell, a scripting language, and a configuration manager management framework. So it can run on all types of Windows, that is Windows, Linux, Mac OS. So you'll get a question quite often, not here, sometimes in interviews also. That is, why do you want to use PowerShell when you have certain tasks? Why don't you do it like that? Why don't you use maybe script or command line scripting or bat files or this or that? So why do you want to use PowerShell? So basically you have these many options. Why do you want to use? So one is your extensible format system. That is, you have a lot of formatting options in PowerShell, like format list, format wide. So it is pretty much straightforward for a user to provide input to PowerShell and then get in output from the PowerShell in whatever formatting he needs. Okay, then you have your built-in data formats, which is basically different type of format. So you do not have to give PowerShell like a value like, okay, I want to give it an array, I want to give it an integer, a string, or something like that. You can give any type of input to PowerShell, and you can generate any type of output from PowerShell as well, things like CSV, JSON, or XML, or a string, or a integer, any kind of output you can think of, PowerShell can generate it for you. Then the next is your extended type system, which is basically nothing but an extension of object. Since we know that PowerShell is a cross-platform kind of an object-oriented language, you can say, but not exactly the same. But everything in PowerShell is an object. When we move ahead to this particular topic, which is our variables, arrays, and hash tables, then we will just see how the variables come into picture, and then we will see what is an object. So basically, this extended type system, it is just kind of a PowerShell object type of object through which we can add new members, or manipulate the existing members of the PowerShell objects. So next is your secure scripting engine, which is basically a safety feature which is designed in PowerShell, which allows certain type of scripts to be executed, does not allow certain types of scripts to be executed. This we will cover when we go about the execution policy. Then you have your consistent API self-service development, which is basically you can develop your own PowerShell module. So you do not have to be dependent on the PowerShell modules which are available by default. You can create your own as well. Okay, just one more point. It will be little bit helpful if you just can speak, yes, no, and if you think that I'm going too fast, you can say that as well. So I just do not want to be like, okay, I'm speaking, and so whatever you think that you do not understand, or if there is something which you want me to repeat, or if you think like I'm going too fast, you can just say it. I will slow down. So seems like you are all new. So anyone? Yeah. So if I'm going too fast, you can let me know. I will slow down. And if you want anything which needs to be repeated, you can tell that as well. Okay. Okay. So these are some of the pointers why anyone will want to use PowerShell. So easy automation, as we all know, we are learning PowerShell because we want to do certain types of automation. We want to do cross product composability. This is basically like when you go about, we know that okay, PowerShell works on Windows. We have worked on Windows. We have done things in Windows, but there are certain different other products and applications. So if you want to do things in that, whereas something like networks or Windows servers or certain other applications, so PowerShell can be of great help in that as well. And the one of the part which is your easy automation. So we can just go about a very simple example here. So see 10, let's say I want to create 10 different folders here. So what I will do is I will create a folder 1, then I will create a folder 2, then I will do 3, and then I will do 4. Okay, so I do not want to go about creating 10 different folders. But you see, like if you have to create 10 or 100 different folders, you have to create something like this. Whereas, let's say if I open PowerShell, okay, and let me go here. So what I will do is new item hyphen 1 second. Okay, so this is basically, we just saw that okay, if you want to create 10 different type of folder, that was just one example. So you basically will not have to do or create folders in your real-time environment, right? But let's say if you do have to do it, so what you will do is you will go ahead and start creating folders one by one. So okay, so let's say we do this path and then we say C10. Okay, and then we say name one, and we say item type direct. Okay, so there's a command I just pasted. I will put the same command here. I will run it. If I go here, I see that a folder is created, right? So what I will do is, okay, so I will go back and I will delete this. I will take all of this. I will go back to my PowerShell and I will paste everything here. And if you see, has created 5 folders for me, right? So this is sort of an automation you can do. So this was just a very basic thing on how you can start off with PowerShell, what you can do with PowerShell. But imagine creating, 100 different folders. Imagine creating 1,000 different folders. So one cannot go about doing all of this for 1,000 different things, right? So what you can do is I equals to 0 and I less than 10 and I plus plus. Okay, let me first go ahead and delete all of this. And let me copy it and then let me paste it. Okay, if I run it, if I go back, it has created different folders for me. So this is sort of an automation which you can do from PowerShell. And how we will go about doing it, we will read all about that. We'll study, the practical examples as well when we go about the syntax of PowerShell and when we go about variables, arrays, so all of those things. When we go about basic scripting, so we will do all of this, right? So this is just meant by easy automation on how you can easily automate things, whatever you do need to do. So you do not have to write a lengthy piece of code to achieve whatever it is you are trying to achieve. So you can easily automate things through PowerShell. Okay. The next few, not very, you can say, advantages of PowerShell, but yeah, insight into MS certification exam. So if you have, if you do want to get yourself certified into PowerShell, so a lot of training material is available from Microsoft itself, which will give you insights into how you can go about giving any certification exams. And another thing is your corporate network management, which is basically managing your entirely corporate network. So when I say network, I do not mean the Windows networks. I mean like Windows servers. Thinking from an MECM standpoint, thinking from an Exchange standpoint, thinking from Intune standpoint. So you can manage your entire corporate using PowerShell as well. Okay, so this is why we use PowerShell. What is PowerShell? Next is command line shell. So PowerShell is a modern command line shell that includes the best feature of other popular shells, unlike most shells that accept and return only text. So PowerShell can accept and return .NET objects. So what is an object and what does it do? We will read about it later. But like you have seen in past languages like VB scripting or command line scripting, they can only accept and return the text. They cannot return objects to you, but PowerShell can do. And a few of the features of the PowerShell command line shell, it includes robust command line history. So whatever your history is, so like I have run a lot of commands here, right? So what should I do is I can just, instead of, let's say if I want to write this thing again, so instead of going and start to write again like this, so what I can do is I can just press my up arrow. That will bring the last command which I have pasted here. If I press another up arrow, it is going to bring me the previous command. If I press another up arrow, it is going to give me another previous command. So it has a very, long history. So I think it is 4096. We will check that as well once we go about environment variables. So it has a very robust command line history where you can see how many previous commands you have executed, and you can see and re-execute all of those commands again and again without having to rewrite the commands or without having to copy paste the command somewhere. The next is your tab completion and command prediction. So something like, let's say if I do want to write like get service, so I do not have to put something like this get service. So what I can do is I can just put get hyphen ser. If I just put tab, it is going to auto complete this entire command for me, right? So that is meant by tab completion. And command prediction means that is, it is automatically able to predict the commands in ISC. So we will see that as well. Then next is your supports command and parameter aliases. So parameter aliases is basically, let's say, I put get hyphen item and desktop. Okay, so I have two different items on my desktop. So if I do need to see all of these items, I need to do is get child item. That is going to give me all of these things, right? So sometimes it is a little bit lengthy to write all of this. So what I can do is I can just put GCI and it is going to give me the same thing. So these are known as aliases. That is an abbreviated form of the actual command. So we can create our own aliases in PowerShell. We can. So there are a lot of inbuilt aliases. So we can use those. We can create our own aliases for anything we want. So then we can use those as well. So but this is what is meant by that it supports command and parameter aliases. Then the next is your pipeline for chaining commands. That is when you have two different commands and you do not want to write two different commands, but you want to use all of that in a single command. So you can use a pipeline, and that way you can complete your command in one single line instead of two lines. The next is your in-console help system, which we will again see in a few minutes. Okay, so up until now, is it clear? Yes, we will. So the thing is, so there is an entire topic for Windows pipeline. So when we go here, we will study the Windows pipeline in detail, and here we will see what is pipeline, how it is done. So this we have here, yeah, something like this. All of these are Windows pipeline. So but what it does, how it happens, and what is the use of a pipeline, do we really need it, where do we need it? So all of those things we will pick, and we will go through that one by one once we start doing Windows pipeline. Okay, so other than that, up until now, is it clear? So do not, if you are new to PowerShell and if you have not done anything, do not be worried about whatever this is. So we are going to do this all just one by one throughout the course of this particular training. Okay, so shall we move ahead? So next is basically your scripting language. So up until now, it was command line shell things which you will be running here and the PowerShell command shell. And the next is your scripting language. So PowerShell as a scripting language, it can be used to automating the tasks. It can be used to automate the management of system. Basically, any tasks which involves any type of system which understands PowerShell. And PowerShell in itself is built on the .NET CLR. So all input and output are .NET objects. And the PowerShell scripting language, it includes the following features, which is extensible through functions, classes, scripts, and modules. So we'll dig around these, all of these one by one. And we have extensible formatting system for easy output, like we discussed. So whatever output you get, you can very easily understand it. So it is not something like you will not be able to understand the output at all. You will be able to see the output. Okay, what is the name of this? Let's go for this example, right? So if you see the command which is get child item, that means we are going to get the child items of the directory C user Sushma and desktop. So we are going to get the names of these particular files which are present in this desktop location. We are going to length of those. We are going to get the length of those files, which is how many bytes or how many bits, how many kilobytes are those. Then we are going to get the last write time or last modified time, and what is the mode for the, whether they are read only, write only, all those permissions we are able to see. So the formatting, output formatting of PowerShell is so easy that it is quite an easy thing to understand. Then we have extensible type system for creating dynamic types. That is, we are not limited by string, integer, array, or hash types, hash tables, or whatever it is. We can create our own types as well in PowerShell. And then you have built-in support for common data formats like CSV, JSON, and XML. So if you have anything else in mind which you can create a support system for that as well in PowerShell. So, but if you do not want to create anything of your own, you do have common data formats like CSV, text file, JSON file, Excel file, XML file. So PowerShell can read and write through all of those for you. You do not have to do any extra kind of a scripting or coding to do anything in PowerShell. So, but all of this, it is dependent to the scripting language. That is when you go about writing scripts in PowerShell. And the previous one, this is all about your PowerShell command line shell, which is when you are not going to do any scripting, but you're just going to write command lines. So you're going to do just commands, right? So if I'm writing a script, I will not write a script like this. Okay, get child item and my script is done, right? So my script is supposed to be a certain number of lines. It is going to accept something, it is going to process something, then it is going to give something else as an output, right? So I will need time to run it, I will need time to debug it, I will need time to check it. But if you want to get instant results, you can usually use the command line shell. Things like this, we just run a simple command. It does not need to be something like this. This you can consider it as a scripting thing. That is, you have more than one lines. It is doing something. It is creating folders in a particular directory based on a particular logic. So this is something which you can write in a script, right? But when we go to the command line shell, we can just write small commands and we can get the output of those we can see, and then we can move on. So that is how the command line shell is designed. Obviously, there is no limitation. You can write your entire script as well in command line shell, but that's just how it was not built. But it does not still stop you to do and doing so. Okay, so any confusions till now, till here, scripting language? Yeah. So uh, we will do get about this. So when we start, you know, I think we'll not have to move till the end, but somewhere in between when we start doing our scripting, then we will create something like administration script. So things like creating AD users or things like creating collections in SCCM. So those things where you can import your formats like CSV or JSON or XML, and then you can put your output back to CSV, JSON, and XML. We will deal with this through a proper example as we move forward. Okay. So other than that, do we have any questions till now? We will move ahead with all of these. So somewhere when we go to okay, okay. So let's do Yeah, so let's do one thing. If you are not able to, just pay attention till now. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that is always there. Yes. Mhm. Yes. Overview and background. No, we will move there. So if you see here, so we have Prabhat as well. He is new to PowerShell, so he has asked to go through in detail as much as we can. So we will, whatever you are asking, we will definitely go through that as well. So when we move to PowerShell shell and then ISC, this is how we will go. Then whatever you are asking, it is all there. So things like get service, get process, set service, set process, everything, update help, get help, and popular commands to start with. Let's say if you do not know a command at all, how do you go about searching something which you do not know? So things like that, we will go in that particular direction as well. We will see the services, we will see all of this. So this is not something like it is going to start at the overview and it is going to end at the overview, right? So I told to Manjeet this is going to be at least a 15-day class. We will have to spend at least 15 hours, 1 hour every day, because we cannot cover all of this in one day, and whatever you are asking, that is all here, right? So this will go with the, the syntax, the administration commandlets, non-administration commandlets, the pipelines, and then it will start to your scripting, functions, debugging. It will go through all of this. Okay. So I just wanted to ask, like, if this time is not suitable, so it is okay if we can do it in the morning. I'm fine with that. So morning before the office starts, that is something which you guys can suggest. Okay, evening is fine. So evening 5 to 6, right? Mhm. We can. So I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule that this we are going to cover all in 15 days, because as we move, you know, as we traverse throughout the course, few things like something like overview, background, setting up environment, syntax of PowerShell, this. So we might be able to cover all of this in 1 hour. But as we go throughout this particular course, things like debugging, functions, and when we go to Windows Forms, PSADT, so here we will spend more time in scripting and all of these. So it's not a hard and fast 15-day class. It will extend up to the point when we reach till our course end. Okay, but I was just under the impression that this week will be a free hour for everyone. So if Sudhir is not able to focus, then it will be a loss for him. So that's why I asked if you guys have a different, preferred time. We can move this to that particular time. Then we can put it something around 8 p.m. if you are okay, because the objective of this. Okay, so we can do it. We can do between 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. I think. Let's think about it. Yeah, no, no. Okay, okay, okay. So we completed till here. So I was just asking if you guys have any doubts till this point of time. No. Okay. Okay, so this is evolution of PowerShell. I'm not going to go through all of this, but at the end of the course, I will provide you this PPT so you can just go through this. I do not think so anyone will ask you this ever, but you just have to, take a keynote of this particular point. That is, PowerShell started as Windows PowerShell, and it was here up until Windows PowerShell 5.1. So post 5.1, Windows PowerShell has Microsoft has stopped at updating Windows PowerShell. Now it is no longer Windows PowerShell, it is just PowerShell. Okay. So this is a PowerShell window which I have opened, and how I have opened is I have done Windows R and I have done PowerShell. I have not typed Windows PowerShell, right? But I have just typed PowerShell, and when I open it, it does not open PowerShell, it opens Windows PowerShell, right? And as per this table, Windows PowerShell is up until 5.1. So let us see what we have here. And you can see this, that is PS version 5.1. These are the major builds and the minor builds. Okay, so how do we go about installing PowerShell instead of Windows PowerShell? That is something which is mentioned here. That is, if you do need to install PowerShell instead of Windows PowerShell, you can use this winget install PowerShell. So the not upgraded, but yeah, you can say like so it is here. Windows PowerShell is something which is built into Windows 10 and server editions. Basically now Windows 11 as well, and it comes installed by default in every Windows starting from Windows 7 SP1 and Windows Server 2008 R2 SP1. So the commands which you will be able to run in Windows PowerShell, you can run all of those in PowerShell as well. But any command which is introduced in any command which is introduced in PowerShell 6.0, you will not be able to run it on any of the lower versions. So that is the only difference. So, but since we guys are not extensive PowerShell background people, so we will definitely not have the need to run PowerShell. We can just go about our lives running only Windows PowerShell. We will be able to do a lot of automation using all of these Windows PowerShell. In most of the cases, you will never have to install PowerShell at all, and you will be able to do all of your automation tasks only using Windows PowerShell. So that is the only difference. And PowerShell is basically for people who belong to Windows servers background, people who run things on server cores or .NET cores. So we do not use any of these as well. So we are not going to discuss anything on PowerShell. We are only going to discuss things on Windows PowerShell. Okay, so this is the only difference. There's something which you can just keep a note of, because this is sometimes asked in interviews. If you say that okay, you are good at PowerShell, or if you know PowerShell as well, so the question might be asked to you like, what version of Windows PowerShell have you worked on? So if you say something like Windows PowerShell 6.0, so that will be a wrong answer, because there is no Windows PowerShell 6.0. So Windows PowerShell has stopped at 5.1. After that, it is only PowerShell. Okay, so this is the evolution. Like I said, we will not go through this. Yes, so not commonly you are using Windows PowerShell everywhere. So until and unless you have extensively installed PowerShell, which is basically installed through uh, your PowerShell command shell, or else PowerShell ISE, and that will require admin privileges as well for you. So this is something which I have not opened as an admin. So let's say if I do, yes, everything will be same. The only thing is this PS version, it will depend on what version of PowerShell you are installing. So I will not install it here, but I'll just show you what happens. So it is winget install PowerShell. So if I do this, it will start downloading it. It will give me prompts, and yeah, it will say that okay, we need to go to this particular store and we need to see this. So do I agree to all the source agreements and all? So I will say no, because we are not going to do this. Okay, but this is how you can install PowerShell. You can just use this command and you can install PowerShell. And once you install PowerShell, then after that, when you use this $ps version table, this particular value $ps version, it is going to change from 5.1 to 7. Let's see what is the latest one, 7.3. I think they might have released something after that also, but as of now, as per this table, you will get up to at least 7.3. And if you do need to get 7.3, you need to make sure that you update your .NET on your machine as well. So you cannot be on .NET 5.0. If you are on .NET 5.0, the max your machine can go up to is PowerShell 7.1. Yes. No, it is required for Windows PowerShell as well. So yeah, but Windows PowerShell, it was primarily dependent on WMF, that is your Windows Management Framework. So I think they have stopped shipping WMF in Windows now. Yeah, it it yeah, it is very similar to .NET Framework. The only difference is it was kind of an older version, and I think they have stopped shipping WMF now, but I'm not sure. But basically, .NET 3.5 is now the default one in every system, and PowerShell 5.1 that utilizes that, and it is able to understand only because of .NET. But for our, training purpose, for any of the administration or any of the automation purpose, we mainly will not be requiring any of these, right? We will not be using WMF, we will not be using .NET. We will only be using Windows PowerShell 5.1, and that will be the latest PowerShell on your machines, any of your test machines, any of your home machines, personal laptops you carry. So you'll be able to see Windows PowerShell 5.1 there, which you can just see like this PS version table, and you can check the first value. And we will be doing all of our automations and scripting using this particular thing. Okay, so this was the evolution. Let's move forward. So yeah, so let's move ahead with PowerShell shell. And like I told, PowerShell will allow you to do two things. One is your PowerShell window, PowerShell control cell, which will allow you to write certain commands, small commands, things like this. You can write, you can press enter, and you can get a value. You can just take the value and then you can move ahead with whatever you want, right? Then next is your PowerShell ISE, where you can write a lot of commands, uh, one command, two command, any number of commands you want. You can save your script and then you can run. That way you can script your particular commands in a way so that it is able to take input, it is able to provide you a particular output, one of those things. You can do, testing and debugging of scripts. So you can write your commands, you can test and debug your scripts in a single window based graphic GUI. That is your PowerShell ISE. So let's move back. So in the PowerShell console shell, I told like PowerShell will let you run any command available on your system, not just PowerShell commands, right? So let me open another window, which is CMD. So this CMD window, it is a command prompt window. It is able to run it is able to run certain commands, things like hostname. It is able to run a command like who am I, okay, so it will tell you who am I, it will tell you my host name, let's say, and we know that these commands are specific to command prompt. These commands will not work anywhere outside command prompt, but let's go back to PowerShell and let's run the same thing. So if I write hostname, it is able to run this, right? If I write who am I, it is able to run it and it is able to return a particular value, right? Let's say I want to get the host name using a different method. So what I will do is I will put $env and then computer name, right? That gives me the same thing, right? So this is a command which is native to PowerShell, and this is a PowerShell commandlet, but this thing, it is not PowerShell, but it is available on the system and somebody else on our machine is able to understand it. So PowerShell will also be able to understand it and run it for me. Whereas the PowerShell commands, let's say I copy it, right? So PowerShell commands you can run only in your Windows PowerShell windows. So I've just copied that command. I try to run it here. It will say that this is incorrect. Whatever it is you are trying to find, it is not correct. So any of your Windows PowerShell or PowerShell commandlets, you can run only in PowerShell, but you cannot run those outside your PowerShell. But anything which you are able to run outside your PowerShell, let's say in command prompt, in bat files, you will be able to run those in your PowerShell as well. So that is meant by that PowerShell lets you to run any command available on your system. It is not just PowerShell command, it is any command. Yes, yes, exactly. Okay, and examples of this we have just saw. That is these two commands. This is a Windows PowerShell window. These two commands we tried running and we were able to get the output as well. But we know that these two are not PowerShell commands, right? Let's go back. Let's move forward. This is PowerShell ISE. So PowerShell ISE is nothing but your Windows PowerShell integrated scripting environment. It is a host application for Windows PowerShell. So we are running commands here. We are not writing any of the scripts, but when we go about writing scripts, so what we can do is we can go to PowerShell ISE and then we can write scripts, right? Yes, 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 yes. So we can do this. So it opens, and the basically why we cannot use but this particular console the same way we can use this PowerShell ISE. We can definitely use, but it's a little bit cumbersome. Let me first clear it. Okay, let's say if I write hostname, I press enter, it is going to give me the output immediately, right? I put $a equals to 100, and if I put $a, it is immediately going to give me the output, right? So I do not want to get the output after every line. So that is why we use PowerShell ISC. We are writing a script, and when we are writing a script, we want to write our entire script, then we want to test it. So that is why we use ISC. Here, when you do, host name and press enter, you're not going to get anything because you are not executing it. Okay, and if I put who am I, and then I press enter, again I'm not going to get anything. But if I do the same thing in this window, as soon as I write hostname and press enter, I'm going to get the result. As soon as I put this and press enter, I'm going to get the results, right? So here I've written all of those, and here what I can do is I can run my script. I can run it, and it will basically rewrite the same thing whatever I have written here, and it is going to give me the results of my two commands, right? So this is how we use ISC to write our scripts. So more details on what do we need to write, how to write the scripts, we will do all of that as we move forward throughout this particular course. Okay. Output is something which you will not get in PowerShell, but you can, save it on any of your device anywhere. So let us say I do this. I do $a equals to host name and then $a and then ctemp1.txt, right? So what this will do is it will save the host name of my machine into $a, and then $a it is going to save it here in ctemp and then 1.txt. So if I go to my ctemp, there is no file here, right? So let's go back and let's run this, right? So this has run. We know that the host name of this machine is Sushma-PC. Now when we go back to our ctemp, we are going to get this output here, right? So for PowerShell, it is not mandatory that you will get your output in your PowerShell. So it all depends on what you have written. If you have written that okay, your output is supposed to be saved to a particular location, you will get your output there. If you have put something like pipeline and then send mail message, and if you have written something like this, so what it will do is from, let's say I put at gmail.com, and I put 2, and then I put prabhat at gmail.com. Okay, so if I put something like this, so what it is going to do is it is going to take my hostname, give here, and it is going to take the same thing and it is going to send the email from this guy to this guy, right? It is not going to save anything like we saw here, right? It actually saved a text file. So this time it is not going to save a text file because our script does not say that. What our script says is you take the host name and you send the email from amit at gmail.com to prabhat at gmail.com, and in that email you send the host name. So this is what your PowerShell will give you. Yes. Yes. So this was basically a answer to Prabhat's question. That is output we will get here. It is not mandatory that we will get the output here. These commands I ran, so we are going to get this output because we are running this here, right? So let's say if I do put $equals to hostname, let me clear this. Okay, I have cleared it. If I run it, I will not get any output because I am not running any command which gives me the output, right? So this is the same line which I have written here. But what, yes, but what is the output? We are not getting any output because our script is not designed in a way to give any output. If I put it like this, so here it is displaying the output. Now if I run it again, it is this line and it is this line. This is our output, right? So it is not mandatory that you will always get an output. It all depends on what you have written in the script. Sometimes you have written something like, okay, you give me the output. Sometimes you have written something like, okay, you do not give me an output, but you save my output, something like this, right? Sometimes you have told to the script, you do not save it anywhere, you send an email, right? So that way PowerShell will give you the output based on whatever your script is having. Okay. Yeah, it's the same. So out file will have your different parameters, and I'll just show you this. Get help. Okay, so if you put out file, you need to put a lot of other things like what is your file path, which we just did, what is your encoding information, and it will allow you a lot of other things as well. So when we will start doing what do I say, when we will start doing our commands, then we will move, learn about our parameters as well, that what is common parameter. So here you cannot pass any common parameters, things like error action, things like logging, things like what was. So let me do one thing, let me show you. I will run this command, and we have seen text file is generated, right? And I think there is a restriction to create a folder with what on, right? So this is something like Windows cannot create a folder for with the name con, right? You can try it. So what you can do is there are certain restricted folder. Yes, yes, for Windows. These are the certain things: con, prn, aux, nul. So let's say prx, okay, prm, sorry, prn, and what is next? aux, right? So it is not able to create certain folders with this name. And in the beginning we ran a command which was new hyphen item, and then path, and then we did ctem, and then we did name, and then let's say and then put directory. Okay, so I've deleted everything. I am What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a folder, I'm trying to create a directory in this location with this name, right? So I will run it, and if I go here, I'll be able to see this, right? And let's, yes, notepad. I did not use new item. I stored the variable in a text file. So that's what I'm just trying to show you. This we know. We have just now established that this is a restricted name for a file. Sorry, this is a restricted name for a folder, right? This is not a restricted name for a file. So if I go here, I'm able to save, okay, for a file also. Okay, so let's say I try to create this. So, so this is something which, yeah, so not like that. We, so I usually go here and take all of my nodes, so you can use this till here. Okay, if there is any value which you want to put in that file, you can use this, right? Yeah. So let's still go ahead with this. So you asked what is the difference between out file and something like this, right? m.txt, something like this, right? So what I do is, this is a proper PowerShell commandlet which is new hyphen item. It has certain parameters which I'm able to do. We know that we cannot create a folder named farm, but nobody is stopping us from writing it. So what I've done is I've just written it. Let me try to run it. Okay, it says yes, it did. Let's go ahead and let's refresh. It is not going to give me anything, right? Okay, this time it did. I will see. So this is a directory which has been created by PowerShell, and I will come back to you with this one. But if there is anything like this which is not able to work out, so with the PowerShell commandlets, you can do certain things like you can provide your common parameters. All of these are your common parameters, right? So what happens if it results in an error? Should your script continue, or should your script give a warning? Should your script ask you for a confirmation? So all of these are your parameters which you can use with your new item. Basically new item or else your out file, any of your parameters, any of your common parameters can be used by any of the PowerShell commandlets. But what I was doing is $a, and then I was doing something like this, right? So we cannot use any of the parameters here. It will just give an error that this is not recognized, right? So that's why the standard practice is to use out file. This was just an example which I showed, that is, if you are writing scripts, this is what we will do just to see the outputs, and this is what we'll do just to store output and things like that when we are going to do scripting. Okay. Yeah, so this is with the PowerShell ISE, how you do, scripting in ISE, how do you open ISE. And this is what we have covered everything. So these commands we are not going to cover from here, but we will definitely cover a lot of commands throughout our session, and we will see how to go about, retrieving commands and running commands. So we'll not use the commands here. You can definitely use, you can just put any command or any keyword, any letter, whatever you remember. It is going to give you all the commands for that. So I put item, it is going to give me for everything it is able to find for item. You can definitely use it. You can, okay, see here. So I'll never, I've never done it. So commands. From here only, from add-on, it's, yeah, show vertical. Right, so this is what we will be able to see. Okay, so mostly you will not have to use it a lot, because I mean, you can, no one is again stopping from using it, but you will get, because whatever command you are going to use, you will actually have to see your command, and you will have to see everything for this command, right? So if you do not know a command, you cannot just, click here and you can try to start running like this, whatever your command is and whatever you are going to do with your command. So you will have to have proper help for the command. So this the thing we will use in help, things like this. So what your command does, some syntax related to the command here. Okay, it does not show you any examples, but you can go to this link, and this link will take you to what that command does, how to actually use a command in restarting a service, in excluding a service, starting all stop. So basically every command has a particular use, right? So use cases of that command you will be able to understand it better from the Microsoft help. So this is where you will be able to find the help. So if you have any command which you are able to find, so what you can do is you can go here for the related links of that particular command in the help section. You can just open it in Google and you will be able to see what it does along with a few examples of that command. Okay, so for now we are going to close it. And this is the command section which we are not going to use often because we will be working with a limited set of commands, not everything whatever we see here, right? So this is going to give you all commands which are available on your system, and as you can see this is quite a long list based on whatever you have, whatever is installed on our system, right? So this was PowerShell ISC. The next is configuring PS console and PSISC. So this is something we can start from tomorrow. Okay, so anything else, any confusions till now, till this particular point? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will send you this particular PPT up until the point which we have covered, that is till here, and you can go through this PPT. So basically whatever topics we are going to cover every day, I am going to add those in the PPT and send it to you every day. So you can see that, you can just go through it at a glance, and if you have any doubts you can come back the next day and we can sort it out. Okay, yes you can, and we anyways have the recording available which I will share with you all. Okay, okay, so we will connect again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Okay, thank you, thanks everyone, thank you, bye.